Dudes, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the 92 F1 build once again. Today we're going to be wrapping up a lot of small stuff on the truck because that's what it's kind of coming down to. Hopefully after this we'll be ready for the dyno. We just went to CarTech and got some parts, so let me show you what we got. Here's the stuff we went and just picked up from Tyler at CarTech. We do have a coupon code through them, which I'll place right here. And definitely mention our buddy Tyler. He's a super helpful resource, so if you have any questions, make sure to go through him. Here's the pedal setup that we picked up through them. It's pretty nice. It's made by CarTech, and you can see there's a little screw here, set screw to determine the max point on the pedal, and then there's this return up here, so if the throttle for some reason gets stuck, you can use your toes and pull it back manually. And then there's also another set screw, just an Allen right there, and that determines where the pedal actually sits with no load on it. We also got a throttle cable. This is their bulkhead style with a 3-inch throw, and this is a 10-foot cable, so it's gonna have to come in the actual truck. It'll come from the throttle body and move back, go down under the or above the trans, and then come back into the cab, and it'll shoot forward to the pedal. So that's why that one's a little long. We also got these 2 1/4 hub seals right here, since we do need to replace those on the truck. The ones on the truck are leaking, which I'll show you in a minute. So we're gonna have to put that on there, and we're also gonna have to get hub retainers, or the seal retainers, because we never got those. So the whole hub on the rear of the truck has to come off on each side, and we're gonna have to do that. Here's some clamps right here. These are for the throttle cable. These will just keep it mounted on the firewall so it's not moving around everywhere. And then we also got this aluminum bung right here, and this is for the trans temp sensor. We were messing around with a few different ideas, and that was to just run this through the actual drain plug on the transmission, but we couldn't find an adapter that was right, since this is 1/8 inch MPT and the port on the trans is 1/2 inch 20, and there's no adapter that they make for that. So we finally just resorted to doing this, which is just an aluminum bung, and this will just get welded into the side of the trans, and we won't have to worry about that anymore. So to put that in, we're actually gonna have to drop the transmission pan, and Christian's gonna have to weld that in. So I think that's the first thing we're gonna start with on today's episode, is actually dropping the transmission pan and getting that piece welded in. I just wanted to hop under the truck to show you guys what we're dealing with here on the transmission. This is a Moroso transmission pan that comes with a Maximum Transmissions Turbo 400. So this is what we're gonna have to pull off. There is no transmission fluid in the transmission at the moment, and that's because we already drained it out of the drain port when we were trying to determine if the transmission temp sensor would fit in there. But obviously we didn't have luck with that, so we're gonna have to put a bung in somewhere on here. I'm gonna have to pull the pan, and then we'll figure out where that point's actually gonna be. That's right, baby. Got a whole fridge. Ooh, a little frothy. We went ahead yesterday and got the trans pan off of the truck, and we just have it sitting out on the table here. My dad went through and just cleaned it up, got all the trans fluid out of there. And right now we're just mocking up where we want to put the trans temp sensor. It is on the back of the pan right now. We were originally going to go on the front where the drain bolts are, but there's some stuff in the trans right here, so we don't want to put the sensor there. So at the back there's not much, so we're thinking that's where we want to put it. So here's the underside of our transmission. As you can tell at the front, there's not much room to put that sensor. So that's why we've determined that we want to put it back here, because we have this big open space. So we'll probably tap it in on this side right here, and it'll be easy to wire with this right here. Just connect it and be done. I'm not going to act like I know what any of this is, because the transmissions are kind of a gray area. The trans pan's all back on the truck now. Christian went through and welded this bung on there, and we got the sensor put up in place, and then we just went through and tightened everything back up and got this trans linkage all back together. So now we're done with the trans. We don't have to worry about this anymore, and we can move on to the front of the truck. Just to update you guys on what we've been working on up here the last few weeks, we did get this PCV all dealt with. We had to buy a port that went into the valve cover, then we just ran it to a vacuum port on the intake. The way it comes from factory is it actually goes from the PCV port, runs along the back side of the motor into a port on the other valve cover, and then it'll come forward to right here on the valve cover, and then this hose goes to your throttle body. But on this valve cover we do not have that port, so what we could do, and what we actually ended up doing, is just going to a vacuum port, and that's completely fine. This filter that you see just sitting on top of the intake right now, this is the trans vent, and this just needs to be mounted, but besides that it's all done. We're thinking we'll go somewhere right here, right next to where the engine crossmember gets mounted. be clean there. We just have to weld a tab and actually get that mounted. You can see we also got these coolant lines done. The coolant system is completely done on this truck now, so we could put coolant in it at any time. We ended up using hardline and some silicone hose. This was all from Cartech, and then Christian actually welded in this bung right here for the steam vent, so this goes down to the steam vents right there. This motor has 4 ports on it, so it's 2 in the back, 2 in the front. Some of the newer ones have 2, but this one has running 4. So we actually ended up, I forget the brand, but it's a kind of crossover system, and then it comes to this port, and then it comes into here. We ended up going into this hardline just because that was the easiest way we could do it. A few other ways you could do it is going off of right here on the radiator. You can tap in there, or you can actually go down and tap into the water pump. But we decided to just go here. That'd be the easiest spot. So this is all done, just an AN fitting running into hose, and then it's hose clamped onto the steam vent down there. Of course, you know I had to go in and heat shrink all the hose clamps just to make everything look super clean. So at this point, there's a few different things that we can be working on. We can put the coolant in the coolant system and be done with that. And then I think my dad's getting ready to put the transmission fluid back in the transmission. My brother's also been working on mocking up the pedal in the cab of the truck. Here's a rough mock-up of where we're actually going to put the pedal. We've all sat in the truck and determined what feels right, and this is roughly where it's going to be. This is probably going to get mounted today. It's not too bad mounting it. It's just 3 holes on the back side right here. And we're going to have to cut the carpet around where the pedal's actually going to sit. But once that's mounted, it's just a matter of running the cable and getting that all tied up, and then we'll have a working throttle on the truck. So fast forward a few hours, I haven't been filming at all. We've all been working on the truck, and we've run into a kind of annoying issue up front here on the truck. My dad and I started filling up the coolant system with coolant, and on this motor with the steam vent system, you're supposed to pull the upper radiator hose and fill it from there first, so you get no air bubbles within your steam vent system. So we were doing that, everything was fine. And then we noticed a little bit of coolant was leaking out of the weep system, or the weep hole on the water pump, and if you know what that means, it means a bad water pump. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to pull this tomorrow. My dad ordered one today, so that should be here tomorrow, and then we can get that installed. But it's like, come on, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So that's just kind of annoying. It shouldn't be too bad of an install. I think it's like 6 bolts or something, so should be pretty quick, but it's just like kind of annoying. But forget about that, we'll deal with it when the time comes. We did fill up the transmission fluid as well, so that's all dealt with. And my brother was working on the pedal, and we made quite a bit of progress. You can see the throttle cable right here is attached in there, and we just have to make some sort of bracket on here. There's the bulkhead fitting back there that we're gonna have to make a tab off of right there. And then on the inside of the truck, I'll show you guys what's been happening in there. Flip the switch over here. You can see Christian went in here, notched out the carpet super clean, and then mounted the actual pedal with these 3 bolts. So that's all mounted within the truck right now. You can kind of see our placement right there. Everything's looking good, and then the throttle cables just ran in here. And here, it looks like Christian's been making a mock-up tab to actually mount it through the bulkhead system. So I'm assuming he's gonna go off of and mount it off the firewall right here. So that'll be clean. This will all probably get wrapped up. Oh, they already did it. See, I haven't even been in here. There's a hole right here, so this is all wrapped up neatly within here. So the pedal system's definitely coming along better than the coolant system, that's for sure. So tomorrow on that, I guess it's really just making those 2 tabs, and then this whole system should be good. It's kind of weird how far back that we're gonna have to make this tab, because that's where the bulkhead is, and then you gotta go all the way up here to the actual throttle body. So that's just kind of weird, but it should all work. So just making a quick mental list for tomorrow. We're gonna have to finish up that throttle cable first. That'll be the first thing, and then that'll all be done. That's the last thing on that system. It's just mounting that. And then I don't know what time exactly the water pump's gonna be in, so depending on when that is, that's when the water pump will get dealt with. So we'll probably start the truck again, feel the cable out, make sure everything's working properly, make sure the coolant system isn't leaking. And then after that, to get the truck actually driving, we're trying to get the truck driving by next week, or I guess this weekend. So we ordered the retaining rings for the rear hub seals because we didn't have those. And we also got, if you remember at Cartech, we did get a hub seal. So that'll have to happen on the rear end, and then that is literally the last thing that this thing needs to drive. Then we have to have the fun challenge of getting it out of the garage because it doesn't fit out of this garage door. We're probably gonna have to back this truck out or push it out, and then move all this stuff, slide the truck over on dollies and get it out. So that'll be kind of a mission of its own, but that's the fun part because the truck will be drivable then, so it'll all be worth it, and we'll have a bunch of energy to do that. So I'll pick it up in the morning, we'll get dealing with the throttle cable and then the water pump and then start the truck. It's a new day. We've been working on the truck quite a bit today. We did get the water pump on this morning and everything went super smoothly there. But once we started filling up all the coolant lines again with coolant, we noticed that there was another leak. We thought it was initially a head gasket, which we weren't very happy about. But we discovered that it was actually one of the steam vent lines that runs under the intake here. The one on the back passenger side corner was actually leaking. There's a gasket on there that was flipped 180 because on the gasket there's two holes, one for the bolt to go through and one for the actual steam vent to go through, and one has a rubber ring on it to prevent coolant from going through right there. So that was backwards, so we fixed that. And then also the fitting wasn't even tight enough, so kind of a failure there. It was leaking pretty bad, but we got that all fixed up, had to pull the intake and deal with that. Everything's back together now. We're gonna start it up. We did fill the whole cooling system with coolant and everything is there. We got a new belt this morning, just cause. So right now we're gonna start this thing up and hopefully we have no leaks. What do you have to say about all these events?
So fun.
Dad, what do you think?
Get off my bumper.
All right, let's start this thing. What is that changing? That's not changed, but this changes.
Nothing's in the way of the belt.
Oil temp. Okay, so we have oil temp, odometer, trip-ometer, and battery voltage. But
temp.
no, that's not.
We'll probably
We have to program it. When you're sitting in this thing when it's idling,
you can feel
like the whole truck like vibrates. Kind of crazy.
Hasn't seen that yet.
What?
That still hasn't felt that.
Have you sat in this thing while it's been running though?
Well,
No.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
is that?
Could be all the coolant sitting on the back of the motor and the trans from
I don't
earlier.
know about that.
Yeah, it's smoking pretty good. Grab the... there you go. Like, look, everywhere. As far as I could tell, that was a complete success. We didn't have any leaks in the coolant system. We double checked and pulled the radiator cap off, and the coolant level did go down a little bit, but that's topped off again, and then we put a little bit in the overflow tank as well. Right now we're gonna kind of split up, and Christian Layer is gonna work on getting the throttle cable fixed up. What he's gonna have to do is mount, I think I've already gone over this in this video, but he's gonna have to mount this through the bulkhead onto somewhere on the intake. He's making templates for that, and then he's gonna have to do the same for in there, which he has started making a template for that as well. While he's doing that, my dad and I are gonna be back here working on this housing. We did get some of the stuff from Camberg. Here's that retaining ring that's supposed to go on the back side of the hub right here, and that just gets held on by those Allens. And then we did get lug nuts from them as well, just because we needed more. So, and then at Cartech we did get those 2 seals. So we're gonna pull apart these hubs, get the retaining ring on there, get the new seals in, and then we're gonna have to fill up the housing again. All the fluid's in here right now, so it should be pretty simple. Pull off the cap and let it all drain back in, and then from there, hopefully we can get that all done today, have the throttle set up and the rear axle together. If we do, we'll get this rear end up in the air a little bit more probably, and start the truck again and run through the gears just to make sure everything's working right. And that, it's gonna be good.
And we're making that cheddar, boy.
In that little montage, hopefully you can see that we've gotten everything ready on the truck. In the rear here, we did do both seals, got everything tightened up, and you can see the rings right there. Same as that side, that's all done. And then we went ahead and refilled the whole housing, so everything's good there. I put the rear end up on jacks a little bit more, just because when we're putting it in drive and everything, we want to let the tires actually spin, and obviously don't want them to touch the ground so you don't go rolling forward. So those are up in the air a little bit. Up here, Christian's been working hard. What have you been working on?
Throttle cable assembly, just getting everything tightened up. So motor side and in the cab are completely ready to go. Throttle cable feels super positive, so that's really good.
Yeah, it came up with some clean little mounts here. Just went off the intake right there and used 3 bolts. There's 2 in the front and 1 behind the axle tab. Everything's tightened up. Like he said, the throttle feels super good. Better than,
yeah, it feels really
better
good.
Than the stock pedal.
Way better than stock.
Yeah, our trucks are, the throttle pedals are but these ones are definitely a lot better. So my dad's gonna be the one starting it today. He's never really sat in the truck when it's running, so he'll be the first one to test out the throttle pedal and everything. So hopefully he's excited to do that. But right now we're gonna fire it up and see how everything works.
Not that bad.
once it gets warmed up, like last time, it wants to idle.
190, and the oil pressure got to 41, so.
Got the 41? So there you have it. Everything's working properly on the truck that we just installed. There's no more coolant leaks. The throttle system works perfectly. There's no play or anything in it. The steering, we did check the steering again. Everything's still working properly there. Went through all the gears fine. The brakes worked fine, locking up the rear. We'll see how well the brakes are when we're actually driving the truck. Now it's time to get this thing to a dyno. I don't know if we're actually going to drive the truck before we take it to the dyno. We'll see. We kind of want the truck to be running right before we go ahead and drive it around. The truck is still running pretty rich right now, and that is because of the base tune. It's set just for the cam and not for the bigger injectors that we went to. So I think stock injectors like 28 psi, right around there, and we jumped up to a 42. So that's why the truck's running rich still. So it's not going to run right until the computer and everything is tuned on the truck, and then it'll really be ripping. But it sounds good, but definitely smoking out the garage. All of our eyes were watering, and I got a fat headache right now, I'm not gonna lie. That's gonna wrap it up for this video though. Next video on this thing's either gonna be driving or it's gonna be dyno tuning. I'm not really sure yet, but we'll see when that time comes. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.